All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 17 of the Chel Stars Podcast. Unfortunately, Corey will not be joining us today. We all love having Corey on here and his long-ass rants, but we won't have one of those today. Today, we're going to be discussing, again, more Canucks talk after their 2-3 road trip, which wasn't, that bad. It could have went a lot worse. Also talking about some other hockey-related news, like the Devils' 12-win streak, that type of fun stuff. But I'll kick it off with the Canucks 2-3 road trip. I think they're playing a little bit better now, as of late. Definitely not like a top-tier team, but you see improvements from Demko, seen improvements from Miller in the road trip as well, too. And also Pettersson is kind of cooking right now. He's got the most points on the Canucks. Not sure how many points he had. Max, you looked that up earlier, right?
Well, I have it right here. He has 22 in 18 games.
22 in 18 games, which he's kind of hitting his stride right now. He got 2 goals the other night against LA, I believe. And he's looking good. But I think we've been saying that since the season started, like he's the one to keep your eye on pretty much. Like he's been playing pretty well throughout the whole beginning of the season. What do you guys kind of think now? Demko played well last game. Probably one of his best games he's played. What do you guys think so far?
Yeah, that was Demko's easily his best game of the season by far. He seemed just a lot more confident out there. I don't know exactly if he did anything differently, but he just was moving a little different. Man, I've said the word different a lot. Whoops. But it was a great game to watch. With them actually getting the goal in the third period while still having that 2-goal lead rather than giving up it is a good change to see. Just pretty much all, good game all around. And the road trip, it was a bit of a rocky start. We won the first game, but then the next 2 didn't have the best effort, I would say. But, it's a hard road trip, going out east, especially with little to no momentum going into it as well. Spencer Martin played great. He got some more extra games in there. And so I'll probably just pass it over to Aaron. I believe you watched a few.
Well, I'll start off with some very exciting Canucks news, and that is that we are no longer dead last in penalty kill. We are now.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And that's only by 0.5%, but we'll take it.
Who's
Small
last?
positives.
Yeah, who's last?
It's now Anaheim.
Oh, shit.
Damn, Anaheim's good at everything.
But yeah, in all seriousness, though, it hasn't been the prettiest last few games, but that one against the Kings was definitely a step in the right direction. It was the first time, I believe, all season that we haven't let in a third period goal, if I'm not wrong. It was definitely just a full force effort. It looked a lot better overall. And it's hard to say that anything substantial has changed, but hopefully, like Max, you kind of mentioned, we really just need some momentum. So hopefully that will help things a little bit.
Yeah. Also, Mikey mentioned with Pettersson with 2 goals. Also in that game, Besser getting his first 2 of the season. So hopefully
he's got a couple assists too in like previous games. So he's kind of on a point streak, which is like impressive for him at this point. It's sad to say, but he's hopefully that builds his confidence. I was watching the end of the last game, LA. I think it was the last minute. He had like a open one-timer and he just fumbled. He just fumbled on it. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of typical at this point, but hey, anything that can get his confidence up,
Yeah, for a guy that we're hoping can get his goal stride going. Coming into that game, having 9 assists in 11 games, finally getting the goals is pretty nice to see.
So I think on this road trip, last podcast we were saying that the Canucks should probably be able to beat Ottawa and Montreal. Well, we got the Ottawa one, right? The Buffalo one, I think we all agreed was kind of up in the air because they shit pumped the Canucks the first time they played them. But at least we got some revenge there.
Yeah,
Corey was wrong about Boston.
Yeah, I was going to bring that
Corey
up. He was
yeah.
very confident with that. Yeah, I think Boston in their home arena, I believe they're 12-0, I want to say. So that's a tough building to go into.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to talk about Boston a bit more later, but when you're playing a team like that at home, any day it's going to be a tough day for the Canucks or any team.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully they can build off of this. You got 4 games upcoming this week, 2 of them against Vegas, 1 against Colorado. So that'll be a good one for this podcast to talk about. Yeah, and then obviously throughout this road trip and even just heating up as of late, there's been a lot of talk about what the trades are going to be like. It seems like it's not a if, it's more of a when something will happen. And, if they can gain some momentum, maybe that obviously postpones things for a big trade. But it seems like Horvat, that's the biggest talk. Myers has been a lot of trade talk as well. But our question for everyone in here is, do you guys see Horvat being traded? Mikey, any thoughts?
Yes and no. Like, I'm so 50-50 because I'd be kind of like heartbroken if he was traded. This season he's, doing work. He's doing work for his contract season. He's going to deserve and need and want a big contract. Can the Canucks afford it without, getting rid of a couple other contracts? I don't know. I think he likes being in Vancouver. His family's all here, and he's been in here for the whole entirety of his career. So, getting traded is probably not like on his first priority, like on his list. But a trade to Colorado would be insane. I think that would give them like a good second line center, which they need. I think that's what Kyle mentioned before, that they needed a second line center unless somebody like stepped up.
Nope,
but I think that'd be good for the Avs. Like, you have Horvat's who's scoring machine. You just add him with Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, all those guys, and it's just going to be effective. It'll be such a good move on the management's part on Colorado if they did successfully make a trade for him.
Yeah, so the mock trade that was kind of floating around Instagram, which I thought was a bit aggressive, was Horvat to Colorado for Newhook, Girard, and a 3rd-round pick. Would you guys take that deal?
Well, ideally, I don't even want Horvat to be moved. But our first priority in, a return for Horvat has to be a defender. Girard, I mean, I've not been able to watch many Avs games, so you'd be able to tell us a little bit more about him. But Newhook, I know, is a promising, center that at least Avs thought would be able to step up and do a second line role this year. The 3rd-round pick is just kind of in there, but, I don't know if the Avs would be able to re-sign him. That'd be good if they could, that's for sure. If so, then that's a pretty good trade on you guys' part. But for the Canucks, it's really, you're building up the team for the next 2 years or so.
Isn't Girard like another type of offensive defenseman? Isn't he a little bit smaller?
Yeah.
Like, do we need it? We don't need any more of those guys. Like, we already have. But seriously, like, we need somebody who can play good defensive hockey. We have Hughes, we have Bear, who can carry the puck up and, get goals and get points.
I mean, we brought OEL in to be that guy who could play defense, and that's not really worked out.
Exactly why I said we're looking for someone who could do that.
And he's a left shot as well. So
Girard or OEL?
Girard, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, again, that's taking up another spot on the left side over someone like Rathbone and, just, clogging up that left side again. So, It's probably not ideal in my eyes.
Yeah, I kind of agree, like, from Colorado's perspective as well. Like, as much as Horvat would be an upgrade, they wouldn't re-sign him. They wouldn't be able to afford it. And they're creating a young player, Newhook, that will be that second line center in a year or two.
Would like a Devon Taves be rumored at all type of thing?
No,
Could that be a potential? No? You don't
I don't think so. I think he's pretty good there. I know his contract is up, I think at the end of next season. That'll be interesting because he'll be due for a major pay increase. But until next season, I don't think they'll even consider that. I think he's just too valuable.
Kyle, if you were to Colorado's management and you were to offer a trade, what would you do?
I mean, Girard would definitely be in that deal or in that offer, which is the reason why I don't think Canucks and Colorado would actually come to a deal, because Colorado doesn't really have what Vancouver needs. Girard is the one piece. He's still young. I think he's 23 or 24. He's on a really good long-term contract, really good offensively, is able to move the puck in transition and create a lot of opportunities for his team. But Colorado's left side is also very clogged with Devon Taves, Bo Byram, and Girard. So I think Girard will be traded eventually to make cap room, but I don't think he'll be traded in this deal. I just don't see there being something that works out for both teams.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Do you see them ever even putting in Byram instead of Girard?
No, Byram's value is way too high.
Yeah. Because his contract is up. He's an RFA this summer.
Yeah, Byram does everything Girard does, but better.
Better, and he's younger.
And he's still going to get better as he develops as well. Byram moves the puck just as well as Girard. He's a lot better defensively. Not as fragile so much. So Byram's I would think out of the question. Unless they're re-signing Horvat, but even if that doesn't fit into their cap structure right now.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I'm sure a trade with Horvat won't be something that happens that soon. They'd have to be, on a major losing streak in my eyes for that to happen soon enough. But in the next 2 months, it will definitely be something on the radar for most teams.
That was kind of going to be my next question for you guys. Is, are you guys satisfied with the 3-3 record in the last 6 games since we last talked?
Well,
based on the competition that they played and how the Canucks played as a whole.
It's hard to say. I mean, they've had this similar kind of effort all year, and consistency-wise, as in they're not consistent. They can't rattle off any sort of victories in a row. Right now, they're on a 2-game win streak, which I'm sure is definitely tied for the highest of the year. They've been kind of in most of the games. You look at the road trip, they won 6-4 against Ottawa. Canadiens was 5-2, but I believe one of them was an empty net. Toronto was a 3-2 loss. Bruins, 5-2 loss. But I mean, it's kind of just same thing all year. They're in every game, and we've mentioned this before. If they could have closed out at least half of those games at the start of the season where they had the 2-goal lead, they'd be in a much different, position right now in the standings and just mentally. So, am I satisfied? So. It's kind of seems like the same thing, but it's going to be a very tough week up ahead. So,
to me, that's
back up.
It's the bare minimum, almost, having those 3 wins. It was sort of just enough for us not to feel like we have to blow everything up. But still, there hasn't been enough change. Their game looks very similar. Their structure looks very similar. The same errors are still happening. I mean, the last game against LA, that was a good game, but it's only one good game. So only time will tell. That's one positive change. But overall, if we look at all 6 of those games, there just hasn't been enough change yet.
Also, LA did outshoot the Canucks that game by at least 10 shots. So, I mean, they scored their goals, but Demko was definitely the man back there that got them the win, for sure.
Yeah, he played really well.
That's true. Yeah.
I was watching the Kings game, I think, and I was super impressed by him, especially at the end of the game when he was really holding down the fort. Now, the 3-3 record, does that save Boudreau's job, or is it just a matter of time?
For the time being, for sure. For the time being.
Yeah.
Definitely just for the time being. Yeah. I don't think anything he could have done in the last few games would have made him perfectly safe in Jim Rutherford's eyes, because I just don't think they have a good relationship at all right now. It's going to take a miracle for him to save his job all year, I think.
It'll be interesting to see when or if that coaching change is made. Like, every single thing Rutherford says just indicates that it's just a matter of days, and I don't know what they're waiting for. At first, I thought
what does he want?
I thought they were just waiting for like the Sedin's Hall of Fame stuff to like be over and get past that, and then maybe call it. But then he didn't fire him before or after the Kings game, so it's just weird. I don't know. Maybe he's just waiting for him to lose one more game.
One loss and you're out. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I think this week's going to be a test. Like Vegas twice, they got Colorado as well. Like, if it doesn't go well this week, then I mean, something's up. I mean, Canucks can't keep beating like shitty teams. If they want to be contenders, they have to be able to hang with the top teams. You know, like if they go 0-3, 0-4, I don't think anything drastic's going to change, but it's going to be a test for them. Like, if you can't beat a good team, you know, you're definitely not a contender, if that makes sense. Like, you just can't be beating, like, the shitty bottom 5 teams every time you play them.
I think it's also not so much the results they're looking at, it's more their on-ice play. Because, you know, the effort that they get put in. And that's, you know, because, like, with the challenging upcoming week, they can get maybe a few close games here and there, you would hope, but if any of them are really blowouts at all, or you just don't see enough, you know, effort out there, then that's when the coaching change definitely ramps up even more. Because you guys think that would... and that definitely was, like Aaron put, a bare minimum.
Do you guys think a coaching change is going to do anything positive for the team at this point?
I think so. I think it'll take focus away from the public feud that the coach and the GM have had, which will just kind of alleviate a lot of pressure.
I kind of think...
Because I doubt Boudreau is very pleasant to be around right now.
Yeah, I kind of think that, but at the same time, I also think if a coaching change is happening, then, like, something else might also be happening at the same time, whether that is a Horvat trade or maybe that happens before the coaching change. Like, you know, Myers has been on the block for a while. Ekman-Larsson, even though that's almost impossible to move, they're in a tough spot. So
I'm shocking that Toronto's part of the Myers trade speculation.
Yeah.
They don't really have the cap room for that.
Well, they almost do, because Muzzin, who knows what his
Muzzin's on LTIR,
health is like. Like, if he even comes back. There's been some rumors of that.
That was like a spinal thing, right?
It's like a whole neck, spinal. And he's had a few injuries like that before.
That's scary.
So they have that 5.6 mil of Muzzin on LTIR. So they'll definitely be looking to bolster their decor.
Does Myers do that?
Well, we have to convince them.
It's a big body along.
Yes, he does.
Guy.
It's like you just have to convince them that, you know, he's a good thing to have. All right, well, we can probably move on from the Canucks unless anyone else has anything else to add.
No, I'm sure we'll be back to them eventually in this podcast. That's what we always do.
We'll relate to them every time, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about Yeah, we'll get back to him. That's for sure.
We'll be talking about like Huberto, and all of a sudden we'll mention the Canucks. So,
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we can move on to our first topic, or our first team here. Mikey, you already mentioned them. The New Jersey Devils on a 12-game winning streak. After, I believe, starting 0-3, they're now 15-3 in total, which is
that is
crazy.
impressive.
Very impressive. I believe it might have been me and Kyle who had Lindy Ruff as the first coach fired. So that doesn't seem like it's...
You were very
accurate.
wrong.
Sorry, Lindy.
Yeah.
He took that personally.
He did.
Yeah. So I think that is not going to be the case unless something really bad happens over there. But they just look like a really exciting team. Young, really scaled, fast, and they're just kind of killing everyone. Even analytically, they're insane.
I think it's just that they're players that they need to be healthy, who are stars, are healthy for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody on their team, I'm pretty sure is healthy. I don't know if there's any star that's like injured right now. Isn't playing.
The only one is Palat.
Palat, yeah, you can argue, I guess, Blackwood, as much of a star he is, I guess. But they have Vanacek in goal, who's doing great for them. And, yeah, like you mentioned, former first overall picks, Hughes, both healthy, both doing really well. Jesper Bratt, I know Kyle's very proud of getting him in fantasy. He's been really good.
He kind of slowed down the last couple of weeks, not gonna lie.
Well. Fair.
Sucks to suck.
Slowed down from a
sucks
2 points per game pace, so like he's still doing unreal.
He's still, doing great. The whole team is doing, just everyone's contributing. All lines, all their decor is looking great.
Their decor.
Now they have good structure.
I don't know. Yeah, they do. They have great structure. I don't know if the listeners follow Money Puck on Instagram at all, but they had a post the other week. It's basically going over like expected goals against for each defensive pairing in the league, and in the top 20 defensive pairings in the league, the Devils' 3 defensive pairings were on that list as teams that just like shut down the other team's offense. Defensive pairings that shut down the other team's offense. So super impressive to have all 3 of your pairings on there.
Yeah, just kind of on that note, I'm just looking at a stat here. The Devils, they've only given up 11 5-on-5 goals since their winning streak has begun. So that's
less than 1 a game.
That's
less than 1 a game, 5-on-5. And on the other hand, they're scoring 29 goals 5-on-5 since that streak has started.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're just an insane
right.
5-on-5 team.
Everybody is breaking out in that team at the same time, it seems like, yeah.
Yeah, every time I look, they're out shooting their opponents by over 10 every time. Like, I'm looking at it right now. Their power play is actually tied for 20th, and their penalty kill is 9th in the league. So it's really just their 5-on-5 that is just carrying them, and that's not a bad thing, obviously.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's a pretty good thing to.
That's a very good thing. And like I mentioned, it's just the whole lineup, and contributing. If your decor is that great, then holy crap, must be nice.
Yeah. Must be nice. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next 20, 30 games. Like, this team is not a super experienced team. They're still a very young team. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep it going over the entire season.
If they make it into playoffs, right, too. Like, if they have, no veteran leadership in playoffs, you never know. But they still might be... Right. They might still be steamrolling teams. Who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because we've seen it happen either way before, where young teams slow down because they just get in a bit of a rut, and then that really gets to their head, or the young teams just keep powering through all season, and there's just enough character in the locker room where it just turns out all right. So hopefully it keeps going all right for them, but that's to be seen.
So how about a team that's opposite of New Jersey? The Anaheim Ducks.
Oh,
The Anaheim Ducks are yet to win a game in regulation,
that's
which is kind of embarrassing.
Just a little bit.
more than kinda. They played 18 games. Like, they're a great 3-on-3 and shootout team, clearly, but my god.
And they're last. Nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're
Connor
last.
Bedard?
I mean, I think they're kind of going for that, it seems. I thought they'd have a different kind of season, though. But clearly, that is not happening. You know,
I think they're the opposite of New Jersey, like Mikey's saying, where like all their players are kind of having rough starts to the year. Like Zegras is doing Zegras things, but like Troy Terry's way quieter than he was last year.
Yeah, Zegras has 16 points in 18 games, which is pretty good for the team that he's playing with.
Yeah.
I mean, Terry does have 20 points in 17 games. But
How many goals?
7 goals.
7 goals. Yeah, he's a little bit
So, I
quieter
mean,
with the
a
scoring.
little
than he was
quieter.
last year.
They just don't have a lot of goal scoring, threats over there. It's really just those main younger guys, and then their depth aren't doing anything. Klingberg hasn't done much at all.
Yeah.
Also, Shattenkirk, I remember last season he was putting up numbers, like, for what he usually does. Like, he was doing a pretty good numbers last season, I think, in terms of, like, assists and that kind of stuff.
He's always been pretty consistent.
He's got
He's
5 and
injured
14.
And yeah, McTavish had a lot of hype going into the season, and he's, albeit not getting a lot of ice time, only just under 13 minutes, but
Wow.
that team is kind of hurting. And I mean, Bedard would be a nice treat, but that's a long ways away. And we know with the lottery, that is never a sure thing.
No.
Yeah, they gotta suffer through the whole season just to get him.
Yeah. Do
I'm
we
worried about that.
eventually possibly see a Gibson trade?
He needs to get out of there, man.
He needs
I think
to get change of scenery would do him a lot. Is under 900 save percentage, above 4 goals a game, and kind of splitting time with Stolars. That's not a great scene. Mentally, I feel like
And he's
definitely
making
be
over
hurting.
$6 million a year for a goalie that has those stats.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of goalies are kind of struggling this year, though. It seems.
Yeah. I don't know. I just find that like Gibson used to be like even a good fantasy goalie to get, because Anaheim would always get peppered in shots, but it'd always stop a bunch. But the past couple of years, it's just been the opposite, where Anaheim gets peppered in shots and he's just letting in weak ones. It's like he doesn't even care anymore.
Yeah, you look and his kind of stats I'm looking at right now, his stats are just literally on a downward spiral. 2017, 18.
But maybe that's also because he's playing in front of such a brutal team. Like we saw the same thing with
That'll
like
do
Ryan O'Reilly when he was on Buffalo, how his play just dropped off because he was just so tired of losing.
Yeah. I mean, important to note, too, the Anaheim is currently ranked 32nd for most shots on goal allowed, averaging 38 per game. So I don't think he's getting much help over there.
And like Aaron mentioned, 32nd ranked penalty kill.
And 31st ranked power play,
Oof.
31st for goals allowed. None of their stats are looking very good right now.
could only imagine Gibson on a team like Colorado or any top 5 good defensive team. Like, he'd honestly have the best stats in the league, for sure.
Yeah, he's actually an interesting one that didn't come up during our conversation about players being hampered by a team.
That's true.
That honestly seems to be the case for him, for sure.
Yeah, we're so preaching it right now, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a few trades out of there this season as they're just gonna be a complete seller. Klingberg obviously was only signed for a year; he'll be gone. Kulikov, pretty much most of their team. Shattenkirk, like we mentioned. So,
but like, do people even like want Klingberg? Is he even doing anything?
Well,
unless they just trade like a draft pick or something for him.
They'll trade, not much.
I think teams would want him just because he could pop off.
Yeah,
true.
Like
word is could.
Sorry,
the key word is could.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah. Some teams are very focused on the could, like the same way that Canucks could have made the playoffs this year.
Hey, bro, there's still a chance.
Wow. All right.
Next 40 games and be in the playoffs. Oh.
Okay. Sure.
I gotta have some optimism, bro. Come on.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Well,
another team we should talk about that keeps on rolling. Boston Bruins.
Yeah,
did you guys watch the Bruins game against the Canucks?
No, I believe I only saw the third period, if I'm correct. I'm trying to remember when that was. It was a little while ago.
I think I watched
Sunday,
parts of that game too, and yeah, Boston was rolling. It was impressive. They're such a crazy team.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like they just don't slow down no matter how old they get.
And we had them ranked pretty poorly.
They also got all their players back way before I thought they would have. Like, I think McAvoy wasn't supposed to be back until the end of this month, but he got back a week or so ago. So,
I mean, yeah, like pretty much everyone. Like they had the three key injuries with Marchand, McAvoy, and Grzelcyk, and all of them came back easily a couple of weeks before anticipated. And I mean, that didn't fully really matter because at that point they were already like top of the standings.
Pasternak, 28 points in 18 games.
He's going off. He's gonna get paid.
He's gonna get paid.
big money, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And just like Mikey said, they just have I think Kyle actually said it, sorry. Like just their core just doesn't seem to be slowing down. Like Bergeron, Krejci coming back after playing in Europe.
McAvoy, Marchand not missing a beat. Like
Marchand,
not even the first line. Like the bottom, like 9, like second, third, fourth. Like they're all like so structured and they all play so well together, aggressively and like they're good from like first line to fourth line.
Yeah, it seems like that coaching change.
And one player that I noticed, I think it was in the Canucks game, like the Canucks Bruins game, was Pavel Zacha.
Oh yeah,
not a guy that's always going to pop off, but he's had a really good couple games.
That was the game that Podkolzin fought, right?
It was, yeah.
And broke his face, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good shiner.
Not much else I have to contribute to that, but actually, you know what? Linus Ullmark as well.
That's good.
In 14 games, he is 12-1 with a 1.89 goals against average.
It's pretty good. Especially after not having the greatest season last year, kind of losing his job to Swayman.
Technical difficulties, hold up.
Swayman.
Okay. But I know I can pull this over to Aaron because I know last year you had him in fantasy, or at least at the start of the season. So how do you feel
I don't
about
think it
him
lasted
now?
very long. Bitterness is probably a good word to describe my feeling. There was this last year. But I mean, like, honestly, like, good for him. Like, he didn't have a great year last year. He didn't play as any of us expected or hoped. But he has clearly turned it around, and maybe that's due to how the rest of the team's doing. I'm sure that's helping a whole lot with his confidence level. I mean, they're keeping the shots down, the scoring chances down. But if he can keep this up, I mean, I think it's Kyle that has him in our league now, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
We're still
Yeah.
talking about Mark.
We are.
Yeah.
You are lucky to have him, as much as he's not helping your team too much right now, maybe.
Yeah,
But
it's not helping, really.
Nothing's helping.
you want
Max, how's your favorite team over in Long Island doing?
Oh, man. Long Island's pretty great. I mean, Barzal, I know he would have been someone we would talk about right now because he up until, I think, last game, he had 0 goals and 19 assists. And then he had a 2-goal game. So that's funny how that works. Once the media brings attention to it, it's a curse, basically. They're
11th in the league. I mean, they didn't do a whole lot of moves, but they're still looking like a pretty decent team.
But they just had a rough last season. A lot of injuries. They had a really weird start to the season with their, arena not being built, I believe it was. So their first 13 games of the season were on the road. So that's really hard to start your season. So that really kind of killed them there, I believe.
I mentioned something completely random.
Yeah.
So I was watching the Minnesota game the other day, and Alex Goligoski was playing his 1,000th game, and for some reason, he scored the OT winner. And then today, Evgeny Malkin was playing his 1,000th game, and he scored a goal as well. Is it just coincidence that whenever players play a milestone game, they score or have a critical play in the game? Or
No, I think it's rigged.
I think it must be, because I just notice it way too often.
I think the answer to that is it's all a simulation.
Bro, Daniel and Henrik's last game ever, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
that was amazing. Yeah.
They popped off on their last home game ever, or whatever it was. They were
OT
literally
winner,
tearing
you
it up.
cannot write that.
Oh, I remember being in that arena watching them score that overtime winner. That was insane. That's probably the best goal I've ever watched live.
Oh, wow.
So, are these players just playing at 80% all the time, and then when it's a milestone game, they're I gotta
saving it.
Extra 20.
I mean, I think it definitely kind of boosts them in a way with these little things. I know I was watching the Pittsburgh game today when during the warm-up they were all doing Malkin's stretching routine, which is really funny to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's such a coincidence. You see that all the time too, just little things when you're watching a game and the commentators mention some stat, at all during the intermission or during the play. Sure enough, you can probably expect that stat to be either broken or continue on at some point during the game. It's just funny how that works. And they have stats on goddamn everything.
The last week, and I was really weirded out by it.
That's a funny point. Very random.
Sorry to go soft topic.
Very random.
All right. I mean, I think we can kind of get to the players we want to talk about. You're talking about all these teams.
Yeah, there's been a lot of teams. I mean, among those teams, there's been a few definite notable players. I think Dallas has been a very interesting team to start the season. I think, especially going into before they were able to sign Robertson and Ottinger, there was a lot of, I believe it was the owner, kind of calling out Seguin and Benn specifically, and they're not living up to their contracts. And they've had a really good start to the season, especially Jamie Benn as of late, with 17 points in his last 9 games, who I believe the stat is, Kyle, you posted it, is the most since November 1st.
Yeah, that's incredible. After scoring
what
3
year is
points
it?
The first 9 games. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're just doing really well with the new coach, DeBoer. They got 2 great lines scoring. Obviously, we know the top line, but Jamie Benn and Seguin doing what they're doing definitely helps them mightily, and you can see that as they're first in the Central.
I definitely thought they were on a decline. I'm going to be honest. Like, they didn't do anything last season, right? They didn't do anything last season, and they just looked poor.
I can tell you firsthand, I know Seguin did nothing last season after you know what happened.
No, nobody knows what happened. You might need to remind the listeners.
No, you can do it. You're the one that brings it up all the time.
Hey, you're the one that brought it up this time.
Okay. Well.
just Chris Kreider scoring so many goals.
So many. Yeah, I mean, we can bring it back to the Canucks as well, as we have already multiple times. But Pettersson, you're doing great. We briefly mentioned him, but I mean, similarly in the Pacific Division, you have San Jose, who's not doing that great, but I think easily you can look at Erik Karlsson and we'll pose the question again, what year is it? Because this guy is doing insane. He has 28 points in, 19 games, 11 goals. Like, whoa, I don't even know what to say.
Bringing his old Ottawa ways back.
Yeah, I mean, definitely having quite the year. Do we see a trade happening with all this, I don't know. That's a tough contract for anyone to take on.
I was gonna say, can anyone actually take
There's
his
have to be a lot of retention. But, I mean, I think the Sharks would be kind of stupid not to even look or consider it.
Oh.
Because, I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible, but I don't know how he's going to keep this up in future years. It's just out of nowhere.
On a terrible team.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. He's shooting at almost about 20%, so you can assume that obviously his goal scoring will slow down a lot. But he's getting a lot of assists, so... And a lot of them are at 5v5. So I think a lot of teams would definitely poke around there, but that trade would be a very interesting one to kind of go through with that cap hit and, what kind of value do you put on him? And then also with him having a no move clause, he kind of gets the say on where he goes in the first place. Maybe back to Ottawa.
That'd be kind of crazy. With their new team and everything.
That'd be quite something.
That would be a difficult trade for any team to make, just based on the cap situation and it not going up too much and having to fit him into their cap plan going forward. But that would be a super intriguing trade for any team.
Yeah, like I said, I don't even know what that trade would look like. It'd be very complicated.
Especially because everyone will value him so differently. Like, there's teams that will take his injury history a lot more seriously, and that'll limit his value in their trade market. But then there's other teams that might be the exact opposite, where he's playing great this season, he's playing great at the end of last season. Maybe he's kind of past that, or at least is playing a different style of game where it's a bit less hard on his body.
I mean, he's playing about 25 minutes a night, so if he's playing differently, maybe, but he's still playing a lot of minutes. He's the main man. They got rid of Burns this summer, and he seems to have assumed a bigger role there. But
it's kind of interesting that I'd say Burns is having a better season this season. Like, at least I see more reliable plays from Burns with the highlights that I've watched of Carolina this year. It seems that Burns and Karlsson are both having better seasons this year than they were last year, which is kind of cool to see. That it's there's just not enough touches to go around between the two, and now they're both just playing a better role where they stand.
Yeah. That seems like the answer, but who knows?
Funny stuff.
So next player that we have written down here that we'd like to talk about is Jonathan Huberdeau, and even just Calgary as a whole. We didn't really mention them about the team recaps, but Jonathan Huberdeau has had a very, I would say, interesting start to his, well, basically rest of career in Calgary. I believe he only has around 8 or so points, and he's been kind of flip-flopped throughout the lineup. He's been on the third line recently, kind of just all over the place. Kyle, do you have anything kind of to add on that?
It's super interesting to see. Obviously, like going into a new team in a new situation in a new market, it's going to be super tough for a player. But 8 points in 14 games is shocking, and it's not like he was playing with bad players the first start of the or part of the year here. It's just I think Calgary in general is starting out a bit slower than we anticipated, but there's a lot of new faces, so that kind of makes sense as well.
Yeah, I can easily see him starting to definitely turn it around as he gets kind of more familiar with that. Like you just said, they have a lot of new faces, more or less, obviously losing Kachuk, Gaudreau, and adding in Kadri and Huberdeau. It's a big change to their forward core, and I'm sure he'll probably turn it around after, with that much skill he has. There's no way this doesn't, this lasts really.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm just looking at Calgary's roster here, and the players that kind of had a really slow start to the season on their team, Elias Lindholm. Kadri wasn't as strong at the start of the season as he was last year, but again, I didn't really expect him to repeat. Huberdeau, obviously. Hannafin's had a very slow start to the season. Mangiapane's had a really slow start to the season. Mackenzie Weegar, and the list kind of goes on and on there, where everyone's just a bit cold right now, but they're starting to turn around.
Even Markstrom too.
Yeah, Markstrom as well, right?
It's pretty much their whole team, essentially.
Yeah. And their backup isn't playing any better, so it's not they're getting reliable goaltending either. Yeah, just the whole team's playing pretty cool. And but I've also noticed over the past couple weeks they've been starting to pick it up in certain games, and maybe they can start stringing some wins together in the next couple weeks as well.
Yeah, I think they've had some key injuries as well. Chris Tanev plays a really big defensive game for them, and he was injured for a few games there, so that's a big loss on their end. And I know Weegar, obviously known for his defensive style there, hasn't been as consistent for this start, but you can look for that to hopefully turn it around for them, or at least that's what they're hoped for, because they signed them to those big extensions.
Max, you want to trade for Huberdeau?
Ooh. I'm not giving you like a McDavid, as you always request.
I'll give you Huberdeau and Weegar in a package.
Ooh, okay. That's not bad. Okay, I'll have to hit you up after. We're not going to do a live trade here.
Could we? Oh, that'd be so sick.
No. Dude, that'd be just me dead silent looking at it.
All the listeners can hear me fleece you again.
Oh no, I don't want to hear that back. I don't want a recording of me getting fleeced.
and then we would play it at the next year's awards ceremony or whatever for fantasy. We would play.
I would not put that in the presentation.
Video clip instead of just pictures.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh yeah. All right. Well, we can move on to pretty much the last player we have highlighted, and this goes with a team that is doing really well. Again, that we didn't mention in the team recaps, but Jack Eichel, 21 points in 18 games. 10 of them are goals. Sorry, and Vegas is off to a really good start. As much as it pains me to say it, I don't think anyone of us predicted them to be this good. I would say.
I mean, I remember our big question mark was their goalie situation.
Yeah.
And clearly that hasn't really played out as most of us expected. They've been healthy and they've just been solid all year to start so far.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Aaron. I mean, that's one thing that I think I hyper fixated on at the start of the season was who's going to be their starting goalie and how awful is their starting goalie going to be. But it's been the exact opposite.
Yeah, Logan Thompson looks like a early favorite, I would say, or at least up there for the Calder. And he's making like $1 million or so. Like that goaltending tandem they have is making like $2 million for the cap, which is exactly what Vegas wants.
Yeah, that's perfect for them because they don't have much cap.
Exactly, yeah. I'm looking at now, all of us except for Kyle had Vegas in our preseason predictions, had them placed 5th in the Pacific. Kyle, you had them 3rd. So you had
good job, Kyle.
Huh? Was there a question, Max? Sorry, I missed it.
No, I was just saying it seems like you definitely had the most hope for them. Obviously, you mentioned the goalie, question mark there, but it seems like all 5. I mean, there's still lots of time, obviously, but all of us were pretty far off from what it looks like.
At the same time, like we watched Vegas last year all season struggle to stay healthy and struggle to put even 20 players on the ice. Like I think there were games when they couldn't afford to call anybody up.
Yeah, I remember.
And they were icing like 19, 18 players. And then a month or two before the season, the news article came out that Robin Lehner was going to miss the entire season with surgery. And this AHL goalie that last year did all right, but didn't seem like a guy that could man the net for the entire season, was now supposed to be their starter, and their backup was Laurent Brossoit. So, I mean,
who also was going to start the season injured.
Yeah, who's going to start the season injured, and now he's been relegated to the AHL. But obviously, that concern it definitely affected our rankings.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's about that time we move on to, I think, everyone's favorite segment for the player trivia or team trivia, as I did once.
He's not here. We're not going to get it.
Yeah. Kyle, I believe you prepared a slightly easier one for us.
Yeah, so I had a few made up. They were a bit more challenging, so I thought I'd save those for next episode. But I do have one made up here. Did you want me to go first, Max, or did you?
If you want to go.
Oh, sounds good. I have a good feeling you guys are going to get this one. Let's rock and roll.
We'll see.
Okay. This player is tied with Martin Brodeur for most wins in a season with 48. Second clue. This goalie won the Vezina in that season where he had 48 wins, which was the 2016 season. Any guesses?
I believe I have a guess.
Mikey?
It might be a got it.
I think I have a guess too.
You guys think you have a guess?
Yeah. But I want to hear the one more hint. Just to make sure of it.
This next hint will help if you're on the right track. Hint number 3. This goalie spent 1 year with the Canucks, sporting a 7-11-3 record And
Oh, yeah, I know.
.889 save percentage in a backup role.
Did he also win a Stanley Cup?
No bonus hints.
I got one more hint.
No, I think I got
know
it.
it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. This goalie spent his best years with the Caps, but also played for the previously mentioned Canucks as well as the Dallas Stars.
Holtby.
And the Rangers. Wait, never mind. Who am I kidding?
What? Yeah, what?
I was like, whoa, I missed that
Who
one.
do you have?
I was fixated on the
Mondays?
Canucks backup, and just I don't know why. Just to me, it was like, oh yeah, halak, haha. But no, it's obviously Holtby.
Max Mondays, baby.
Man, no, it's not. That's your segment, buddy.
So did everyone get a point for that one, or was it just Mikey and Aaron? Or Mikey, yeah.
Max, did you know it was Holtby?
The very first hint you gave, I immediately thought of Vasilevsky, because I mean I know Tampa had like one of the best records a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But second hint definitely didn't help me there.
And then Max had it with the
After the second one.
And Mikey had it with the third one, right? Or you had it with the second one and then...
I wanted to hear the third one just to ensure success.
Cool. Great victory there, Mikey.
Thank you, sir. I like the easier ones.
Yeah.
Not one player was drafted in
guessed.
1965.
Yeah.
Held the record for most penalty minutes in... Yeah.
See, that was gonna be my one this time, but Corey's not here, so.
Well, I'm glad we got the easier one out of the way, because I think mine is slightly harder than that. Aaron, you cannot play because you saw who this is the other day. So this is purely for Mikey and Kyle and whoever's listening.
Kyle's going to get this one.
Maybe. You might know this. I don't know your knowledge, really. Okay. So first hint here is this player was drafted in 1997 and went on to play over 1,000 career NHL games and have won over 1,100 penalty minutes.
Thousand NHL games and 1,100 penalty minutes?
Over 1,100 penalty minutes.
Okay.
Obviously,
How much
probably...
over?
Oh, well, I don't know, like 1,130, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know. Does that help you? You know the answer.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, cool.
I have an inkling, but keep on going.
Okay, wow. This one might definitely assure you. It might be Mikey. This will help you. This player was suspended numerous times for blindside hits and headshots. He was a pivotal factor in influencing the NHL to change the rules to deter such acts.
I think.
I can't even think of a player right now, dude. Jacob Trouba.
Good answer. Good answer.
No, he has not been suspended that much.
I don't know. Kyle, give it a go, baby.
I have a bunch of questions to ask, but keep on going with your hints because I don't get to ask questions. I just get to listen to the hints.
That's fair. Okay. I believe you probably haven't, but we'll see. So number 3 here, we got, speaking of suspensions, this player laid a hit to the head of Mark Savard.
Yeah, I had it, yeah.
Knocking him out cold. Savard would then barely play any more games in the NHL after that, and this player, who you have to guess, was not suspended for this action. So Kyle seems like he's definitely got it.
I do, yeah.
Mikey?
Yes, Max?
Any thoughts? Or do you need the last
I honestly
one?
can't even think of a name. Like I think I know. Like I'm like picturing it, but I can't think of a name.
This last one should help you then. So his only accolades are having won a gold medal with Team Canada in 2004 and winning a cup with Pittsburgh in 2009. So I'll give you a bit of time, maybe, to think of that.
Kyle's answer, bro.
All right, well, Kyle, why don't you just reveal your answer?
My answer is Matt Cook.
It is indeed.
Who is it?
Matt Cook.
Oh,
He cooks. So...
You picked that player just so you could say that.
No, I didn't. I thought of it right now.
So...
yeah.
I don't know if the fans knew this, but the Matt Cook isn't actually that hit isn't the one that actually ended his career. It was a hit by Matt Hunwick.
Okay.
When they played the Colorado Avalanche. I don't even think it was a very bad hit. It was just because he had so many concussion issues in the past. It just
ended it.
Exactly, yeah, which was super sad because he was actually like a crazy good player back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty interesting player. He's had a crazy history.
I do like that.
Minutes.
Controversial as hell. I hate that guy.
Controversial.
Like,
a lot of fans.
One of my least favorite Matt Cook plays was when Colorado had that really crazy year in, I think it was like 2012 or 2013, where they won the President's Trophy, but their possession numbers were just atrocious all season. That was when Patrick Waugh took over for the team. And in like game 5 or 6 of the first round, they were playing Minnesota, and Matt Cook had a really dirty knee-on-knee hit for Tyson Barrie that knocked him out of the playoffs.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that if Matt Cook didn't lay that hit and ruin Tyson Barrie's knee that year, that Colorado would have won that playoff series. They wouldn't have won the cup, but once they replaced, I think it was Tyson Barrie with some other scrub defenseman, like I forget who it even was. Colorado just couldn't move the puck effectively, like out of their own zone. Like they had zero breakout. They had like their entire game was their rush game, and they just started sucking because their defense couldn't move the puck up the ice, and it ultimately cost them the series. So,
damn. So you definitely hate him.
yeah. He's second on my most hated players, behind Todd Bertuzzi.
Okay. Well, I mean, pretty much that does about it for the player trivia here. Aaron, I believe you were the one that made the trivia Tuesday, so go over that for the fans.
Did I?
Didn't you? Yes.
Oh. Well, I don't remember what it was,
Okay.
so if you wanna...
For everyone listening, the answer was Duncan Keith.
Oh, I did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you did make it. Good job.
I got down a real deep rabbit hole about NHL players and teeth. It was very interesting, the kind of articles we found about those. Yeah, that was a good one.
I think I got that one on the second hint.
I think mine was the third.
Houston.
But Aaron was there when I was guessing, and I was kind of like,
yeah.
Thinking.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the teeth, I thought Duncan Keith because he has no teeth.
Right, it's very notable.
You know Teeth Keith?
No teeth, Keith.
But yeah, I mean that does it. That does about it for the podcast here. Tune in, I believe, sometime next week when we'll be able to talk after the Canucks' next few games here. And hopefully Corey will be able to join us again, and he'll be able to give his maybe big rants on the Canucks. And we'll make sure to pose the questions about Horvat and everything to him as well. Aaron, I'll pass it over to you for the outro.
Yeah, before we get to that, though, did you mention our next fan question?
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't. It's pretty much what we asked you, or asked ourselves here today. And it's just going to be a poll on our Instagram. And we also freshly created a Facebook page. There's really nothing on it yet, but we will be posting on that. But our question for you is, will Bo Horvat be traded? We'll love to hear your answers. And feel free to send us like an actual comment if you have like a bigger opinion. To you.
All right. Well, thank you for stealing almost exactly what I was going to say here. And that is that, yes, we do have a Facebook page now. Like Max said, there's not a whole lot on it yet, but it will be getting all the same content we post on our Instagram. So all of our trivia questions, all of our fan questions. So if you're somebody that doesn't use Instagram as much, please go over to our Facebook page instead, give it a like, and hopefully we can get some more discussions in the comments over there as well. Other than that, we will be back next week for another episode. So we'll see you all then. Have a good one.